Gerard Deulofeu's words landed like a detonator under football's usual script. During the European Super Cup presentation between PSG's and Tottenham, the former Barcelona winger declared that teenage sensation Lamine Yamal is, in his view, the season's greatest creator and a genuine Ballon d'Or contender. That declaration is more than praise from an ex-player. It is a direct challenge to the checklist voters often follow. For decades, the Ballon d'Or conversation has tilted toward trophies and measurable milestones. Deulofeu's argument asks us to consider something harder to quantify: influence. He says plainly that creativity itself can be the highest currency in football, and when a La Masia alumnus makes that claim about an 18-year-old, it echoes beyond mere opinion. Yamal's rise is rapid and unmistakable. He moves with a calm that betrays his years, with a vision that finds teams' defenders' thought close. The hallmark of his season has been not only the moments he finishes, but the ones he engineers, the passes that unlock compact defenses, the runs that force opponents to shift shape, the small decisions that accumulate into decisive advantage. Deulofeu's framing is revealing. He sees not a momentary wonderkind, but a developing architect who might evolve into roles further back on the pitch and continue to dictate play in multiple ways. That sort of versatility amplifies the creative argument. If a player can create from different zones, his footprint on matches grows exponentially. Naturally, the pushback is already forming. Ballon d'Or voters have long relied on silverware because trophies are objective and comparable. It is easier to point to a Champions League or league triumph than to measure the subtleties of chance creation. Critics will say awards need evidence, and evidence often equals medals. But history reminds us that influence can outweigh inventory. Think of players whose presence altered the way teams set up or how matches were played. Those changes are not always recorded in a trophy cabinet, but they are felt across seasons. Deulofeu is essentially asking voters to remember that artistry can be as consequential as accumulation. There is also a cultural dimension to this endorsement. Barcelona's identity has been bound up with La Masia for generations, and when a former academy product vouches for a new graduate, it matters. It signals continuity, an internal validation that the club's method still produces thinkers as well as technicians. For fans, that kind of lineage is intoxicating. It turns a rising player into part of a club's broader myth, feeding narratives that stick. When the praise comes from someone who understands the club's DNA, it carries a different weight than a pundit's soundbite. Deulofeu's voice thus amplifies Yamal's profile in a way that may nudge public opinion and, crucially, influence those who vote. For Yamal himself, the endorsement is a loaded blessing. The spotlight tightens, expectations rise, and every misstep risks being framed as a refutation of the hype. Yet there is a flip side. Legitimacy attracts momentum. When respected figures point to creativity as a decisive attribute, commentators and voters begin to reshape their metric. Suddenly, the passes that split a defense, the inventive sequences that create clear chances, and the tactical intelligence to draw defenders out of position start to carry more weight in conversations traditionally dominated by goals and trophies. If the Ballon d'Or conversation shifts even slightly toward influence and creativity, the ripple effects are real. Coaches might protect creators differently, clubs might adapt recruitment to prize architects who make teams tick, and analysts may craft new metrics to capture what once felt intangible. Yamal becomes more than a promising teenager. He becomes a test case for how the modern game values inventiveness. Deulofeu's endorsement invites that experiment. Will the sport reward the architect as much as the finisher? Ultimately, whether the Ballon d'Or ends up in Yamal's hands or not, the endorsement has already rewritten the narrative. It forces a public debate about what excellence looks like now. Is it simply the collection of trophies, or should the award also honor those who change how football is played? Deulofeu's answer is emphatic and personal. He speaks as a craftsman recognizing another craftsman, as someone who once wore the same shirt and sees in a young player the same drive to create. The rest of football will now decide whether to follow that vision. For a teenager from Barcelona, a single sentence from a respected voice can alter a career's trajectory. For the sport, it might just tilt the scales of what we call greatness. And for fans, pundits and voters alike, that unfolding argument is worth watching because it asks the simplest, most consequential question of all. Who exactly do we honour when we name football's best?